Let's do it. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep on a book that, well, it's caused a bit of a stir, to say the least.
It certainly has, hasn't it?
It's Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. You know, it's one of those books that you kind of hear about in hushed tones, like some sort of secret society manual.
I think that mystique is partly why it's become so popular. It's a bit dangerous, a bit forbidden.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to break down this whole power thing, how it works, the rules, the strategies.
The tactics.
Exactly, the tactics. So for those who haven't read it, the book is essentially a guide to understanding and navigating power dynamics.
It draws on a pretty wide range of examples, too. I mean, we're talking historical figures, from Julius Caesar to Sun Tzu to Machiavelli, of course.
Oh yeah, can't forget Machiavelli. But, it's not just about ancient history. It's about applying these laws to our modern lives, to the workplace, relationships, even just everyday interactions.
Right, and that's what makes it so relevant, I think, because whether we like it or not, power dynamics are everywhere.
Everywhere. And, let's be honest, part of the appeal of this book, and you tell me if you agree, is that it's so unapologetic. It's almost ruthless in its approach to power.
I think that's a fair sentiment. It doesn't sugarcoat anything. It presents power as it is, raw, and often, well, kind of brutal.
Right. And that's what gets people talking, right? And you know what I find interesting? This book has been super popular in some pretty unconventional circles. Like, I read that it's a favorite among, get this, rap artists, Hollywood stars, even prisoners.
That's right. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is it about this book that appeals to such a diverse group of people?
It really does. I mean, maybe it's that everyone, on some level, is trying to figure out this whole power game.
I think that's a big part of it. We all want to understand how power works and maybe even use that knowledge to our advantage. And Greene, well, he provides a framework for doing just that.
He does, and it's a pretty compelling framework, I have to admit. But we can't ignore the elephant in the room. The book has also been pretty heavily criticized. It's been called manipulative, Machiavellian, even downright unethical.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And there have been some pretty prominent critics, Carol Kennedy, Jerry Adler. They've all raised concerns about the potential for misuse. They argue that the book oversimplifies complex power dynamics and that some of the laws are, well, a bit morally questionable, to say the least.
A bit. So, where do you stand on this? Is this book a guidebook for ruthless ambition, a warning about the dangers of unchecked power, or something else entirely?
That's a tough one. I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I mean, it definitely lays out some pretty ruthless tactics, but I think it's important to remember that Greene himself acknowledges that not all of the laws are created equal. Some are about self-preservation, some are about strategy. It's up to the reader to decide how they want to use that knowledge.
So it's all about interpretation, right? It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for, not so good. But okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What are some of these laws? Give us a taste.
Oh, there are so many good ones, but let's pick a few that might be particularly relevant to our listeners. Let's see. How about conceal your intentions?
Oh, that's a good one. It's all about being strategic, keeping your cards close to your chest.
Right. Greene argues that by not revealing your true motive, you create an element of surprise. You keep your opponents guessing.
You gain the upper hand. And it's not about being dishonest, right? It's about being strategic.
Exactly. It's about knowing when to reveal information and when to hold back. Okay, how about another one? This is a classic. Never outshine the master.
Oof. That's a tough one. I feel like I've been in situations where I've maybe learned this lesson the hard way.
It happens to the best of us. But this law is all about managing perceptions. Sometimes, being too brilliant, too competent, it can actually threaten those in power.
Yeah, you don't want to make your boss feel insecure, right?
Right, and so it's about finding that balance between showcasing your talents and knowing when to, well, strategically hold back. It's not about being a pushover, but about choosing your battles wisely.
I like that, choosing your battles. Okay, give me one more.
All right, let's go with get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit.
Whoa, okay, that one sounds a bit harsh.
It does, doesn't it? But hear me out. This law is essentially about delegation, about leveraging other people's talents to achieve your goals.
So it's about efficiency, about teamwork.
Exactly. And it's not about being a dictator. It's about recognizing that you can't do everything yourself. You need a team. You need people of different skills and perspectives.
But what about the taking credit part? That's where it gets a little tricky, right?
It does. And I think in today's world where collaboration is so important, taking all the credit can really backfire.
Big time. No one wants to work with a credit hog.
Exactly. So I think the key here is to be strategic about how you apply this law. Yes, delegate tasks, but also make sure to give credit where credit is due. Acknowledge your team's contributions. Celebrate their successes.
So it's all about finding that balance, right? Between being strategic and being, well, a decent human being.
Precisely. And I think that's the key takeaway for the 48 Laws of Power overall. It's not a set of rules to follow blindly, but a framework for understanding the dynamics of power and how you apply those insights, the ethical considerations you bring to the table, that's ultimately up to you.
So it's a powerful tool, but with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes this book so fascinating and so, well, a bit controversial. It forces us to confront these ethical dilemmas head on.
Yeah, it really does make you think. It's not just about understanding power, it's about understanding yourself, your own values, your own ambitions.
Exactly. And I think that's the most valuable takeaway from this book. It's not just about understanding others, it's about understanding yourself.
Well said. So, to our listeners, if you're looking to understand the often unspoken rules of the game, the 48 Laws of Power is worth exploring. Just, be prepared for some serious self-reflection along the way.
And be ready to see the world in a whole new light.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
Because once you start seeing these power dynamics at play, you can't unsee them.
So true. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap things up. But hey, keep the conversation going. Let us know what you think about the 48 Laws of Power. Have you read it? Did you love it? Hate it? Somewhere in between.
Let's hear your thoughts.
Until next time.
See you then.
Bye, everyone.